once you realize that, that's kind of should really help you get rid of a lot of anxiety. Should really help you get rid of a lot of social anxiety and stuff. Once you realize that you're getting older, not younger. Once you're getting older, not younger. That's kind of, it's very tricky to realize this. It's very hard to accept this. Right, and I know, because death is something that's, it's not, the human psyche can't really even comprehend dying, right? Because I mean, you go to sleep at night, that's the closest thing that we can kind of really experience while we're still alive to like what dying would be like, right? But once you go to sleep, right, your body starts to immobilize, right? And then your thoughts, then you start to kind of like have these thoughts and you dream and whatever and stuff. That's kind of like the closest thing that we have to like dying and stuff. Closest thing that we have to dying. Really, once you, it's kind of fun, it's crucial that you realize, right, that you're going to die and everything's kind of temporary and stuff. Only getting older, right? The days go by, the weeks go by, the months go by, you're only getting older, not younger. That's kind of very tricky. It's very difficult to accept that you're only getting older and not younger and stuff. You're only getting older and not younger. Very difficult to accept that. By the way, I'm looking over there because I'm keeping an eye on my gloves. Anyway, it's very tricky and difficult to accept that you're going to die and not come back and stuff like that. And, on different religions, especially if you look at human history, right? There was always been like a variety of different religions, and they always had like types of explanations for what happens after we die. Again, but, no one's like fully died or something. No one's fully died and seen what happens afterwards. No, there is no documentation on what happens after you die. It's pretty much a mystery and stuff. And so that's very, very scary and stuff. Again, there is no documentation on what happens after we die. It's pretty much a mystery, right? No, there's never been any sort of documentation on what happens after we die. So, of course, a lot of scientists, right, academics, they kind of make the argument that basically, we're just like machines, right? Once the brain stops working, right? Once our bodies start to break down, that's basically, we're finished. There is no more consciousness after we die, right? Because the brain deteriorates, right? A lot of academics, scientists, they kind of make this type of argument that we're just like a machine. And once our bodies break down, that's it. Our consciousness, right, our soul and stuff, everything like that, it just goes away forever. There is no afterlife or anything like this. Of course, this is what a lot of academics and scientists like to claim, and this is the type of argument that a lot of academics and scientists make, right? Of course, if you're religious, you might believe that there is like some type of afterlife. But of course, we all have to admit that we're all kind of ignorant about what happens after we die, right? Because there's never been no one's ever experienced dying, passed on it, and see what happens afterwards. Let's go. Let's put it here. Gloves keep falling over. Anyway, there's no one's experienced dying, right? Seeing what happens after we die and stuff. There is no documentation on what happens after we die. It's just kind of a mystery, right? And so, alright, so what? So you can, like, I don't know, maintain some type of like hope that there might be something after we die. Something might happen after we die. I mean, it's kind of, it's difficult because everyone's kind of like, we all have to admit that we're all kind of ignorant on what happens after we die. I can show you this church. We all have to kind of admit that we're a little bit ignorant about what happens after we die. You know, it's kind of tricky because, again, you know, no one's fully died. Because, you know, if someone died, right, they wouldn't be, like, it would be impossible to like to ask them what happens after, you know, after they die, because they wouldn't be here. Right? Their brains wouldn't work. They wouldn't be conscious and stuff like this. If they died, fully died. I don't mean near-death experiences, because a lot of people have near-death experiences and stuff. They have these types of experiences, right, when they're about to die. That's not like their brains are still functioning, right? Their nervous systems haven't been completely destroyed and deteriorated. When I'm talking about death, like fully dying, I mean like your nervous system's completely destroyed. It's gone forever. That's what death is. Not like you get into a coma and then you're in like a hospital bed. Not like that. Your nervous system's completely been destroyed. That's what death is and stuff, right? That's what I mean by dying death and stuff. That's what I mean. Your nervous system has been kind of destroyed. Once that happens, there is no coming back, right? So, you know, that's why, you know, death is kind of a mystery, right? No one's documented what happens after we die. So it's a mystery, right? It's still very even if it's a mystery, it still is horrifying, right? And this body you're in, right, it's going to break apart and deteriorate and die, and there's no coming back. And that's very shocking and horrifying. That's very horrifying and scary. Very, very shocking and horrifying and scary, right? Now once again, the days go by, the weeks go by, the months go by, we're only getting older. Not younger, older, only older, right? Well, you know, once our time is up, that's it. That's it. Once our time's up, that's it. And then our bodies break away. They break down, basically, right? They start to decompose, right? Then you just turn into a skeleton, basically, right? Not much left of you, right? And then who knows if if our consciousness even survives death. A lot of academics and scientists, they kind of make the argument, right, that we're just like machines. We're basically like machines. Stuff like machines. We're like machines, essentially, right? If you destroy a robot, not just a robot, computer, if you break apart the circuit boards and you deteriorate everything, the computer doesn't work anymore. There's no program left, right? It's just like, likewise, if our bodies, if you kind of destroy our organs and brain and whatever in the body, our consciousness, right, it's kind of analogous to like a program, right? It just goes away forever. There's no return. And this is kind of getting very tricky, whether or not our consciousness survives death. It's kind of a mystery. It's kind of unknown. It's kind of very scary, man. It's very scary, right? It's kind of, again, a mystery. We're all kind of... Everyone is ignorant about death, right? No one's... like fully... No one's experienced death and dying. Right, none of us is... When I say experience death, I mean like fully... Again, I don't mean near-death experience